Hey guys, I'm going to help you with Lesson 7's homework. And we're going to start off with number 1, and it says write a decimal number sentence to identify the total value of the place value discs. So here it's starting off with 3 tens, 4 tenths, and 2 hundredths. Well, 3 tens is going to be 30. 4 tenths is going to just be 0.4 because that's 4 in the tenths place, and 2 hundredths is going to be 0.02. And when you put all those together, you'll get 30.42 because that's 4 tenths and 2 hundredths. Alright, on part B, you have 4 hundredths and 3 hundredths. And 4 hundredths, well, it looks like actually that they have 5 discs up here, but they put 4 hundredths, so I'm going to cross out one of those. That must have been a typo. But 4 hundredths is going to be 400 as a number. And then 3 hundredths will be 0.03 as a number, and you'll get 400.03. Okay, on number 2, we're going to be identifying the digits in certain places and their value in unit form. So part A says the digit blank is in the hundreds place. So the digit 8 is actually in the hundreds place based on this chart. And that means it has a value of 800 because it's 8 in the hundreds place. So I'm going to put 8 hundreds. Okay, on part B, it says the digit blank is in the tens place, and it's actually the 2. So I'm going to put the digit 2s in the tens place, and it has a value of 2 tens. Part C, it says the digit blank is in the tenths place, and it's a 6. So I'm going to say the digit 6 is in the tenths place. It has a value of 6 tenths. And part D says the digit blank is in the hundredths place, which is a 4. So 4 in the hundredths place has a value of 4 hundredths with a TH at the end. Okay, let's look at the next part. And we're going to keep going. It's the same kind of thing. Part E says the digit blank is in the hundreds place. Here it's going to be a 3, which means it has a value of 300 or 3 hundredths. Part F says the digit blank is in the tens place, and it's the digit 4. And so the value is going to be 4 tenths. Part G says the digit blank is in the tenths place, and if we look at the place value chart, it's a 1. So I'm going to say 1 tenth with the TH. And H says the digit blank is in the hundredths place, and it's a 9, so it has a value of 9 hundredths. Okay, next page. Here we're going to be taking a decimal number and writing it as a mixed number with a fraction, and then we're going to do it in expanded form for fraction notation and decimal notation, which are pretty much the same thing. So let's look at this example. And in this example, it looks like they took 14.23 and they turned it into 14 and 23 hundredths as a mixed number. And then in fraction notation, they took each place value. So 1 times 10 because there's a 1 in the tens place, 4 times 1 because there's a 4 in the ones place, 2 times 1 tenth because there's 2 in the tenths place, and 3 times 1 hundredths because there's a 3 in the 100ths place. Then down below, they wrote the value of each one, and when you add them all up, you end up getting 14 and 23 hundredths. The only difference on the decimal notation side is that instead of fractions, you're going to write the decimal equivalent. So we're going to start off with 25.3, which is going to be the same thing as 25 and 3 tenths because that 3 is in the tenths place. And in decimal notation, I would do 2 times 10 because there's a 2 in the tens place, plus 5 times 1 because there's a 5 in the ones place, plus 3 times 1 tenth because this is fraction notation and it's in the tenths place. And then below, I'm going to write 20 for 2 times 10, 5 for 5 times 1, and 3 tenths for 3 times 1 tenth. And when I add that up, I'll get 25 and 3 tenths. Same thing on the decimal notation side. So I'm going to start off with 2 times 10, 5 times 1, plus 3 times, and this time instead of 1 tenth, I'm going to put 0.1 because it's a decimal notation. And then below, I'm going to write 20 plus 5 plus 0.3. Okay, and we're going to continue the examples this way. It gives you a total of 25.3. The next one is 39.07, which is the same thing as 39 and 7/100ths. It's not 7/10ths because that 7 is in the hundredths place. In fraction notation, that would be 3 times 10 because there's a 3 in the tens place, plus 9 times 1 because there's a 9 in the ones place, and then plus 7 times 100th because it's a 7 in the hundredths place. So down below I'm going to write 30 plus 9 plus 7/100ths equals 39 and 7/100ths. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing. We're just replacing the fraction with the decimal. So 3 times 10 plus 9 times 1 plus 7 times 0.1. I'm sorry, not 0.01 because it's hundredths, not tenths. So I would say 30 plus 9 plus 0.07 because it's 7/100ths, which would give you 39.07. Okay, the next one is 40.6. So I'm going to write, it looks like the 6 is in the tenths place, so it's going to actually be 40 and 6/10ths. And then when I do it in fraction notation, there's a 4 in the tens place. I'm going to say 4 times 10. There's actually nothing in the ones place, so I don't have to worry about it. So I'm going to skip on over to the tenths place. So I'm going to say plus 6 times 1/10. And that's it. So the 4 times 10 is 40, plus 6/10 is going to equal 40 and 6/10. And we're going to do the same over here to the right, but in decimal notation. So I'll get 4 times 10 plus 6 times 0.1. And that'll give you 40 plus 0.6, which will give you 40.6. Alright, on the next one we have 208 and 90/100ths or 9/10ths. You can say it either way. I'm going to say it as 9/10ths because I think that makes it easier. Remember, those are equivalent. And here we're dealing with the hundredths place now too. So instead of just saying times 10, I'm going to have to say 2 times 100 because that's 2 is in the hundredths place. There's nothing in the 10, so I'm going to go to the ones, so I'll say 8 times 1. And then I'm going to add 9 times 1/10. Notice I'm skipping over the place values with zeros because I would just have 0 times that number. 200 plus the 8 plus the 9/10 will give you 208 and 9/10. We're going to do the same thing over here, but with decimal notation. So I'm going to say 2 times 100 plus 8 times 1 plus 9 times 0.1, which will give me 200 plus 8 plus 0.9, which will give me 208.9. Alright, on the next one we have 510 and 7/100ths, not 7/10ths because that 7 is in the hundredths place. So I'm going to write 510 and 7/100ths. And when I write this in expanded form, I'm going to say 5 times 100 because there's a 5 in the hundredths place. I'm going to say 1 times 10 because there's a 1 in the tens place. I have nothing in the ones place, so I'm going to leave it alone. And I'm going to say 7 times 100th. So I write it down here. I'm going to say 500 plus 10 plus 7/100ths, which will give me 510 and 7/100ths. I'm going to do the same thing over here in decimal notation. So I have 5 times 100 plus 1 times 10 plus 7 times 100th. Oh, I'm sorry, that's 1/10. Let me erase it. Go back and fix it. not correct. We don't want 7/10. Let me go back. We want 7/100. So instead, up here, it should have been 7 times 0.01. And down here, it should be 0.07. Make sure that you don't do that as well. Sometimes it gets a little tricky. So it'd be 510.07. If you can't see that, ran off the screen. Okay, and the very last one is 909 hundredths. I think they did this on purpose to make sure you knew the difference between hundreds and hundredths. So you're going to have 900 and 9 hundredths. And in expanded form, it's just going to be 9 times 100. And the only other number we have to do is 9 times 100th, because everything else is zeros. And down here, I'll have 900 plus 9 hundredths, which will give me 909 hundredths. And then over here for decimal form, I'll do 9 times 100 plus 9 times 0.01, which will give me 900 plus 0.09, which will give me 900.09. All right, if you have any questions, let me know.